Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about massive Hurricane Ian that exploded overnight to nearly a Category 5 hurricane. So we're going to break down all the details in this video. Good morning everyone, how's it going? This is your morning update. I appreciate all my followers and my new followers. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to the satellite picture because we've got a serious situation unfolding with Ian rapidly intensifying over the last couple hours, going from 120 to 155, nearly Category 5 hurricane. And you can see all the lightning strikes around the center. And that's basically an indication that Ian has no plans of weakening anytime soon as it makes its trek to the Florida coastline. So the coastline of West Florida could be seeing potentially a historic storm on the table this morning. So this is a catastrophic event potentially unfolding with this situation. So let's get to the radar depiction this morning. You can see this perfectly symmetrical eye that's very deeply concerning. And then you can see the outer bands already moving ashore. There's Marco Island, there's Naples, back into Bonita Springs, back into Cape Coral. It's only a couple of hours away. I'm expecting landfall this afternoon. So I wanted to get this video out this morning because I will be doing live coverage on this storm. So later on, tune in for that for sure, because I'll be doing live coverage all day long on this channel. So let's take a look at the overall setup for this storm, because this is pretty historic. I mean, the National Hurricane Center pulled out all the stops and they were actually testing drones for the first time. That is the first time ever they've actually flew in drones in this storm. And that's when they actually found some of those 155 mile per hour winds to upgrade it to a strong Category 4 hurricane. Right there at flight level, they found a maximum winds of 160 plus. They extrapolated that down to the surface, and that's when they made the bump up to 155 mile per hour, 936 millibar, nearly Category 5 hurricane. I mean, it's only got a couple of more miles an hour, and we could be looking at a storm that's one for the ages. I mean, this is a dangerous setup. So here's the overall setup for the 8 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. It's only a couple hours away. Like I mentioned, it's 9 o'clock this morning when I'm recording this video. I'm thinking anywhere between 2 and 4 o'clock, we could be looking at landfall. It slowly has drifted southeast as far as where landfall, because it's feeling the effects of this trough over time. And now it looks to come ashore basically just around the Port Charlotte area, just probably northwest of the Fort Myers area, as this will continue inundated, and it's dropped down all the way to 10 miles an hour. So we highlighted this slower setup, and it could drop even slower with very heavy rain, extreme winds, and even tornadoes would be a huge concern. This looks to go over Orlando as well, and then possibly merge out into the open waters again, and possibly have a secondary landfall by Friday somewhere on the border of Georgia and South Carolina. So Ian's not going away anytime soon. It's going to leave a mark almost on the entire state of Florida other than the Panhandle, and then it's going to go inland, dropping some very heavy rain, inland flooding into Georgia as well as South Carolina, and eventually creep up into portions of Tennessee as well as North Carolina as we get deeper into the weekend. So this is what's concerning, and this is the new storm surge update from the National Hurricane Center. All these areas in blue, that's up to 3-foot storm surge. So even though the storm is away from the Panhandle, you could still at least get some anywhere from 1 to 3 inches and 3 feet in this section. But as you creep back down, closer to the eye, you're looking at 3 to 5 feet in this corridor right here. But this is where it gets dangerous, folks. Back into Tampa, we're looking at anywhere from 4 to 6 feet. And then once we get in the red shaded areas back into Inglewood, we're talking 6 to 10 foot storm surge, guys. That is dangerous. And look at this. This could be historic storm surge for this area. We're talking 12 to potentially 18 feet. That's catastrophic storm surge back into Bonita Beach and as well as into Charlotte Harbor area. And then once you creep back down into portions of the, say, Fort Myers, getting further south, we're still into the 5 to 8 range. And then once, even as we go up along the coast here, as it merges out into the open waters and possibly re-intensifies again, at least a little bit, having some 3 to 5, even 2 to 4 foot storm surge into portions of Georgia, into South Carolina, deeper into the weekend as we head to Friday, Saturday, and your Sunday time frame. So, but that 12 to 18 feet, guys, that is some serious stuff. That's something that the area has never actually seen in their lifetime. So this could be an historic event. So let's break this thing down for you as far as the rainfall totals. And obviously with the slow movement of only 10 miles an hour, this is a huge swath of high excessive rainfall, anywhere from Fort Myers to Tampa to Orlando, all the way to Jacksonville. We could be looking at double-digit totals, even upwards to over 2 feet of rain, compounding with the high winds and the storm surge with this system. But even as we get offshore, as it goes out in the open waters, we still have a moderate risk for flash flooding and excessive rainfall further south into South Florida, as well as portions of Savannah back into Charleston, going into your weekend time frame. So here's the breakdown for today. I think it all starts later on today, this morning, as the eye wall starts creeping in, and then it really intensifies throughout the day. Going into tomorrow morning, we could be looking at huge flooding concerns for Orlando. Some of the models are indicating over 2 feet. Yes, 2 feet of rain. So this is definitely a dangerous situation, and the models really haven't come up with this. I mean, this is the latest output from the hurricane model, and it's down to a 941. So I mean, the real-time data is stronger than all the models out there right now. So that just gives you an indication that Ian just took a dramatic turn overnight and just went through rapid intensification in just a short amount of time. So here's the winds from the short range HRRR guidance. Yeah, indicating those 155 mile per hour winds. Some of those gusts could be into the 170 range plus mile per hour range. That's at least what they're estimating, but that swath could really start to impact with a good 100 mile per hour swath winds along this corridor into central Florida, and then break out into the open waters and still get some possibly tropical storm force winds as it reemerges out in the Atlantic on Friday, and then makes a secondary landfall potentially along the border here into Georgia as well as into South Carolina. But here's some of the estimates from some of the short range models. Here's the latest NAM output. I mean, we're talking 16 inches in Sarasota, about 9 inches in Tampa. Look at that, guys. I mean, 29 inches. This is some of the latest model data in Orlando, Daytona Beach. Here's your NAM 3K, right at 23 inches in Orlando. So both short range models are indicating upwards to almost 2 feet of rain within this corridor, from Daytona Beach to Sarasota, back into Tampa, even up to Jacksonville, but could be looking at some 1.5 foot totals easily on the table. And if we break it down to the weather prediction models the same way, and the GFS, it's a lot of the guidance is all coming together. These are the newest runs from the model output, indicating 1.5 foot to possibly 2 feet of rain with this system along this corridor where it makes landfall. So yes, this is a historic event potentially on the table. Here's the overall severe risk, because we do have severe risk as far as in terms of obviously the rain and the wind, but we also have tornado risk, and they put out an enhanced risk for severe storms today in and around the Orlando area, back into Melbourne, back into the Daytona Beach area. So those areas could be looking at a tornadic supercells pretty much for the entire state. Tropical funnels are pretty prone for these tropical systems, especially with this one. So anywhere from South Florida to Central Florida, all the way up to Jacksonville, especially into Orlando or in Melbourne today, we could be looking at tropical funnels and tropical tornadoes unfolding, and these could be literally quick spin ups. So you've got surge, you've got 2 feet of rain, you've got wind, and now you got tornadoes compounding this. This is basically the worst case scenario is unfolding, unfortunately, with Ian. So this puts it in rare territory. This is all the storms, right? This is all the storms of a Category 4, Category 5 that have hit Florida since records began back in 1851. So you can go down the list here. And yeah, there was Michael just a few years ago, 160 miles an hour, 919 millibar. That's, you know, Ian is not that far off, guys. We could be looking at another Michael on the table, another Charlie on the table easily. We're right on the cusp. The millibars is even lower than what Charlie was back in 2004. There's Hurricane Andrew. So yeah, this definitely Ian's going to be retired. I mean, the I named storm is something with it, guys. I mean, there's like basically any, you know, over 25%, or I forgot the number. It's really, really high of you know, I named storms being retired, and Ian's for sure absolutely is going to be applied to that list. But for the rest of the country, we're waking up to this chilly air this morning. In fact, some of these areas in the upper Midwest has experienced some of their coldest temperatures of the season. They had frost and freeze warnings up here in the upper Great Lakes and portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin. Look at all that blue. That's indicating that freezing temperatures even in the 20s this morning. So that's some pretty chilly stuff. And it's been really dry. It's going to be really dry across a good chunk of the U.S. Because, I mean, Ian is just basically stealing all the moisture in the atmosphere. So here's the overall setup for the rest of the country for the next 7 days. So predominantly everything's going to be basically applied on this trough, and it could be swinging where the rain's going to be. Obviously you're going to be cooler than average, and you still got a ridge you're still dealing with all the just the bone dry air that's going to be on the table for a good chunk of the United States. So predominantly west is going to be overall above average. In the central states, especially into Texas, you're probably going to be on some of that borderline. You have the very cool nights, and then you rapidly warm up. I had a 40-degree temperature swing just yesterday in parts of Texas. So you're going to be seeing these rapid swings with this extremely dry, bone dry air, dew points 30, 40 degrees. You know, humidity values drop next to nothing in the teens further south. So there's a lot of dry air to speak of. So here's the rainfall for the next 7 days, folks. This is a 7-day rainfall. You see multiple states, 20 or 30 states without a drop of rain for a good chunk. It's going to be really, really high and dry. We do have some instability that's coming through Idaho and portions of Montana, as well as Wyoming back into Colorado. But for the most part, all this is going to be associated with Ian over the next week, as it has pronounced flooding across Florida, creeps back into, and then you could be looking at, you know, some pretty high totals, especially along the coastal regions in South Carolina, North Carolina, back into Virginia. And as it's creeping up to portions of, say, Delaware, back into portions of New Jersey, and then some of the inland flooding could be pretty pronounced too as well, back into portions of eastern Tennessee, West Virginia, portions of Virginia as well. So I appreciate you guys following. Do like this video. Definitely stay tuned for live coverage on Ian all day long. So I appreciate you following. I'll see you in the next update.